You picked it up 14 times before noon. You didn't need to. There was no message, no alert, no reason, but your hand moved anyway. Like it always does. Like it has been doing every single day for years. And you probably think it's a bad habit, a modern weakness, a personal failure of focus. It isn't. What's happening inside your brain when you reach for your phone is one of the most powerful biological mechanisms your species has ever developed. It kept your ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years. And now, without your permission, it has been hijacked. Here's where it starts. Deep inside your brain sits a structure called the nucleus accumbens. It is ancient. It predates language, agriculture, fire. It does one thing. It releases dopamine when you encounter something that might be rewarding. Not when you find food. Not when you catch prey. When you might. The anticipation is the trigger, not the reward itself. This is not a modern discovery. In the 1950s, neuroscientist James Olds accidentally implanted an electrode in a rat's nucleus accumbens and gave the animal a lever to stimulate it. The rat pressed the lever over 7,000 times per hour. It ignored food. It ignored sleep. It pressed until it collapsed. Olds had not found the pleasure center. He had found the wanting center. And wanting, it turns out, is far more powerful than having. Your phone is a lever. Every time you pick it up, you don't know what you'll find. Maybe nothing. Maybe a text from someone you love. Maybe news that changes everything. Maybe a video that makes you laugh until you can't breathe. That uncertainty is not a flaw in the design. That uncertainty is the entire mechanism. It is called a variable reward schedule, first described by behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner in the 1930s. When rewards arrive randomly, the brain does not adapt. It does not get bored, it escalates. The not knowing is what drives the compulsion. Think about a slot machine. You don't win every pull. You don't even win most pulls. But you keep pulling because somewhere in that randomness, a reward might come. Your phone runs on the exact same architecture. Every notification, every refresh, every scroll is a pull of a lever on a machine that sometimes pays out in connection, validation, entertainment, or meaning. This is not a metaphor. The engineers who built the systems you use every day know exactly what they built. Asa Raskin, who invented the infinite scroll, later said in an interview that he calculated it creates approximately 200,000 hours of lost focus every day. He called it a design mistake. The people who built it after him called it a feature. The pull to refresh gesture, the red notification badge, the ascending count of likes. Every one of these was built with an understanding of dopaminergic loops. These are not accidents. These are precision tools aimed directly at your nucleus accumbens. But here's what's worth understanding. Your brain did not develop this vulnerability by accident either. For most of human history, novelty meant survival. A new sound in the dark might mean a predator. A new smell might mean food or fire. A change on the horizon might mean weather that would kill your entire tribe. The brains that paid attention to novelty survived. The brains that ignored it did not pass their genes forward. You are the descendant of the ones who could not stop looking up, who could not stop checking, who always needed to know what was new. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying how human social groups function. His research suggests that your brain evolved specifically to track up to 150 social relationships at once, their status, their loyalties, their potential as allies or threats. Gossip, as Dunbar argued, was not idle chatter. It was social intelligence, knowing who was angry at whom, who had found food, who was rising in the group's hierarchy. That information was survival data. Your social feed is gossip at industrial scale. And your ancient brain does not know the difference between a status update from someone you've never met and news from someone in your tribe. It treats all of it as potentially critical social intelligence. It cannot stop processing it because for 99% of your evolutionary history, stopping meant risk. Now layer on top of that the fundamental human need for connection. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent over 20 years studying loneliness in the brain. His research showed that social rejection activates the same neural regions as physical pain. Being ignored, excluded, or overlooked registers in your nervous system as a threat to survival. Because evolutionarily, it was. Exclusion from the group meant death. Your brain has not updated this equation. A message left on read still stings like a wound. A post that gets no response still registers as a form of rejection, so you check again and again. Not because you are weak, Because you are human. Because you are running a 300,000-year-old operating system on hardware that was never designed for what the last 15 years have thrown at it. But knowing this gives you something important. It gives you the lever back. Because here's what the research also shows. The dopamine spike you get from checking your phone is not followed by satisfaction. It is followed by a drop. A small withdrawal that leaves you slightly more anxious than before, slightly more restless, slightly more in need of the next pull. Neuroscientist Anna Lembke, who studies addiction at Stanford, describes this as the pleasure-pain balance tipping toward pain after every use. The more you feed the loop, the louder the hunger becomes. But the loop is not fixed. The brain is plastic. What gets rewired can be rewired again. When you introduce what researchers call a friction cost, a delay, a barrier, a moment of pause between the impulse and the action, the nucleus accumbens loses some of its power. Not because you've weakened it, but because you've introduced the prefrontal cortex into the conversation. The rational brain. The part that can say, I already checked this. There was nothing there. There will be nothing there. That pause is everything. It is the difference between your brain running on ancient autopilot and your brain making a choice. You live in a world your ancestors could not have imagined. A world where every social signal, every novelty, every potential reward is available at all times in a glowing rectangle you carry in your pocket. Your brain was not built for this. No brain was. And the people who built these systems understood your biology better than most of you were ever taught. But you understand it now. The next time your hand moves toward your phone without being asked to, you will know what is happening. Not a weakness, a mechanism. Ancient, powerful, perfectly designed for a world that no longer exists. And in that moment of knowing, you will have something your ancestors never had. The choice to put it down.